What you see here is my Warbonnet Ridgerunner hammock, which is a bridge hammock, and underneath it is a Hammock Gear Incubator underquilt. I have the saddlebag on the Ridgerunner flipped inside the hammock so you can see how the underquilt is hanging on there. This was a little bit of an experiment. The Hammock Gear underquilt is designed and intended to work with a gathered end hammock. Now, I already had it when I got the Ridgerunner. I wanted to know if I could adapt it to use on the Ridgerunner or use it on the Ridgerunner. I do have the Lynx underquilt, which is made specifically by Warbonnet to go on the Ridgerunner hammock. It's super easy. Never had a cold spot sleeping with the Lynx underquilt. I emailed the folks at Hammock Gear. They were very honest. They said it's intended only for gathered end hammocks. They don't mean it to be used on bridge hammocks. But I had it, and I wanted to see if I could use it. So I have my hammock hung. First step is just to flip it over. Take a piece of line, tie it to the top of the dog bone of the hammock. That's these two lines here. Right? I use the knot that won't tighten. Alright, the black S-beaner is the foot end, so I want to flip this around. Make sure I've got the head end of the hammock and the head end of the underquilt lined up. Tie a trucker's hitch in my line. Alright, to tie a trucker's hitch, make a bite in the line, take it, just twist it. Now take the running end, the end that's headed toward the hammock, reach through, draw that forward, almost like you're making a marlin spike hitch. That way, your line, when you pull here, won't tighten. If you do it the opposite way, if you do it like this loop will tighten up and become almost impossible to release. One more time slowly. Make a bite. This is the end that's running toward the hammock. Pull that through. I'm going to take the long end of the line that's running down toward the hammock, run it through the S-beaner on the end of the underquilt, back up to the loop, and tighten that up just a little bit to start, to make sure just a little bit of tension on there. Loop that off temporarily. I'll do the same thing at the other end. Take the running end, the end that's long and goes toward the hammock, run it through the S-beaner, bring it up through the loop, bring it up through the loop, put some tension on it, just enough to get the underquilt stretched out end to end. Temporarily hitch that off. So the Hammock Gear hammocks have these little cinches that will help you tighten up the ends, and draw them in to get an airtight seal around the ends of your gathered end hammock. I've loosened those out all the way, so this will lay as flat and wide as possible at the head and the foot of my Ridgerunner. Now I'll take the suspensions and just hook them around the tips of the spreader bar. I'll do the same thing up here at the top. So take the suspensions, just hook them off around the end of the spreader bar. Now flip the hammock back over. And that's hanging pretty loose. That is one unhappy bird. That's hanging fairly loose. You can see a big gap there. I want to tighten this up so this comes up maybe even a little bit proud of the edge of the hammock. I'll just pop that hitch out of there. You see how the trucker's hitch works. Take this end of the line. Almost works like a pulley. It slides right through there. If you tied it wrong, this loop would collapse. Like, cinch that up. That's pretty tight. You can go a little tighter. Give that a couple wraps and hitch it off. I can tighten that up even a little more. Ah, my pillow. I love my pillow. My wife made this pillow for me. My wife who loves me. The edge of the underquilt there, the gray, is just a little bit above the top edge of the hammock. I've got the saddlebag folded in so you can see that. You know, is it going to be a perfectly airtight seal down along the sides? I don't think so. You tuck your top quilt in around there, you should be alright. That's what I did last night, and it worked fine. With the saddlebag on the Ridgerunner, if you're in the hammock, you flip it down. You see it's kind of resting over top of the elastic here for the suspension of the underquilt. If there is a little gap at the top, that will cover it and maybe help keep the wind out. On the other hand, if you have anything in the saddlebag, it might push it down and create a little gap farther below. So, boy, I could take a nap. Maybe I will. This is a 30-degree underquilt. It got down to 40 last night, and I was warm. 20-degree top quilt. Also a Hammock Gear top quilt, which I'm very happy with. But reach under, you know, it's not tight up against the side of the hammock. It's not even really tight up against my small of my back. But down under my butt, there is contact. You know, there's contact at the shoulders. So there's some heat being trapped in there. I don't know that I would take this down below 40 degrees. I make no guarantees that this isn't going to stretch out the elastics or stress the fabric or do some other type of damage to the underquilt. And I don't guarantee that it'll work for you and keep you warm. This was just my experiment and I thought I'd share it. Figure things out for yourself. Also, I did test this in the backyard before going out on a real trip with it.